Hey everybody, welcome back to Play the Casket. This is your hosts, Paraka, and
Your co-host, Ghost.
today we're actually going to start talking about ports and such. And Ghost, you were talking about why you actually were going on a small little rant about what would be good for a port right now, and what would that be?
Port everything. Bring it all. It's good for archive, and it allows the company extra money for new games. It's basically funding the newer stuff. So I say, yeah, bring it all. Bring them all over.
No, I kind of agree with that. That for the most part, I I do think like my overall opinion of ports are good. I think if they're gonna be porting old stuff, like really old stuff, retro stuff, I think they should probably go better in collections. Like if it wasn't for the Genesis collection that's already out there right now, if Sonic needed to be ported, port 1, 2, 3 with Knuckles and have a little weird Knuckles version for every of the origins, and maybe even Sonic 3D Blast. Roll that all up in a ball, put it on a disc or cart, and ship it out there. See what sticks.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel like that is overall good. I think it also, like you were saying, it's good for game preservation. I would also like to have that.
Well,
Like,
even now too, game production is just so ridiculously high. Like,
oh yeah,
it gives them a chance to sell the game technically twice, or I guess you are selling it twice. So
well, twice, 3 times, depends on the frequency they release it and stuff too. Um,
And to be fair, too, I think most games I bought on my Steam account were PS3 and Xbox 360 games.
yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I do think, like for instance, as you were saying, I think I like to call it a Kickstarter campaign without the empty promises.
Okay.
Like, it makes sense because let's say Nintendo is planning on making a Super Mario Odyssey 2,
Yeah.
right? They haven't made a pitch on that. They haven't made an announcement on that. They haven't done any of that. But they're probably looking at, hey, how can we get couple extra artists and a couple extra programmers and such, and do a small little like demo set of it until we could get our core team on the base. Well, what if instead of trying to pitch it out there and see if somebody will fund us, even though it's Nintendo, I'm just saying theoretically,
Yeah.
right? What if we release Pikmin 3 and Super Mario 3D All Stars? And that money can go into funding this new game we're developing right now.
Yeah.
Like if Nintendo goes, "Hey, here's our Kickstarter. We're making Breath of the Wild 2. If you pitch up to $60, we'll give you Skyward Sword HD."
Yeah. Well,
I mean, that's basically what that is.
yeah, you already got the game. Well, because the problem with Kickstarter is that you're not guaranteed anything. You're
Yeah,
just investing.
that's what I'm saying. Without the empty promises, but
Yeah.
that's basically crowdfund. It's basically crowdfunding. That's
Yeah.
what I'm thinking. Saying, like, and because development pricing and budgeting is getting so expensive because this power pissing contest that many consoles want, and like these markets that are being sold into right now, they don't want to buy. As I've said previously, they don't want to buy a PS5 and then play Shovel Knight on it. They want to buy a PS5 for Horizon Zero Dawn or Miles Morales. Like that makes sense. Why they invested themselves into power? They're gonna want games to reflect that.
Yeah.
The thing is, developing that costs money, and so it's easier for them to develop a game and then port out a complete edition or an up-resed version of the old game they just released a year ago on the PS4. And it's easier for them to do that and then just see what goes out there. And I feel like that's lazy,
Yeah.
you know? But at the same time, like if they port old stuff, like if somebody came out and was like, or like for instance Capcom, right? If Capcom came out and was like, here's Gotcha Force from the GameCube, released on the Switch and on, let's say, the PlayStation 5 and Xbox, I'm about it. Like that game was actually pretty fun. Like
Yeah.
it's one of the harder games to find now on the GameCube, and apparently it's getting up there in price because last time I looked, it was like close to $200.
Yeah.
And like if they just release it again, yeah, not
Yeah.
only the weird afterhand market's gonna tank, but people have access to that game they never had before.
I know. Well,
Like-
secondhand market, yeah, that's always like where it's at too. Because I remember, I think Final Fantasy VII. I remember back then before the digital version came out, it was like $60-ish. But now you can see it. The physical PS1 discs are now like $20, and then
Roughly, yeah.
yeah, and then the digital games are $15. Marvel vs. Capcom 2 though was $75. Sorry, it was like $75 if you look online, but I think they lost the licensing though, unfortunately. So I don't know what happened on the PS3 because they start pulling them.
If it has like Disney and stuff on it behind it, it's always licensing. If it's Marvel, if it's Star Wars and stuff like that, that's why I'm actually surprised there's so many Star Wars games coming out right now.
Mm-hmm.
But once that licensing's over, those games are gone.
Oh my god, I can't imagine like Star Wars: The Old
Like
Republic.
Disney doesn't have a development publishing
Republic.
studio at all. Like they don't.
Really?
Like Aspire licensed out Star Wars games, like the old Star Wars games, such as Jedi Knight and stuff, from Disney. So they're in control of where they're going to port these games. But when that licensing's up, Disney could say no, and then Jedi Knight on the Switch and the PS4 and stuff like that, gone again, just off the. And Disney doesn't have to.
Okay.
Disney doesn't have to grant an amnesty to people who've already bought the game.
Yeah.
They
Port
probably
everything, guys. Port everything.
They'll likely do something to make sure those people are still happy, but they don't have to. And I think that goes down a different different topic altogether about licensing and stuff. That's going to be that's a lot there because I think porting licensing games is such a bigger pain in the ass than it is to say like porting your average Resident Evil.
No, okay.
You know, that's basically what that is, right? And for me, like another thing the reason why I like it, like I just kind of touched on it a little bit ago, was like if you have a lot of franchises, right? And you're not entirely sure they'll sell because the last time you released one was like 10 years ago, and it sold like ass. How are you supposed to know if it sells? Or if anybody's interested in it nowadays. Like, it would be easier for them to just release a small little collection of the classic games to see what sticks. Because the worst you can do is just put it on sale and then just sell until you break even.
Yeah.
Because it's probably just going to be a simplified development. You just got to make sure everything works. Make sure like if it's a collection, make sure your UIs and stuff and all the other mechanics are in place. But for the most part, the core of the game is already built for you. The core of the game has already been well known to be received very well, for the most part. Like some are out there aren't good, or they weren't even made localized. It'd be a good example to try to port something, right? So let's say, for instance, like if Nintendo made an F-Zero. Like, Nintendo has said, and it's gone on record, that F-Zero, they're not sure if nobody wants F-Zero anymore because, like, their last GBA game tanked. Like, it's Maximum Velocity, I believe. I could be wrong on that, right? It didn't sell at all like the GameCube one. Like, at all. Like, so, honestly, they could just port the GameCube game, maybe up-res it, or they could make a collection of all of them. No, don't.
Well, that'd
have
be cool, actually, getting the GBA and the.
Well, if they do F-Zero, F-Zero X, and F-Zero GX with like an AX like addition mode to it and stuff, I would easily pay $60. Hell, I would if they up-resed it for GX with an AX mode on it, I would still pay $60 for it. I know a lot of people wouldn't because they think ports are should be cheaper, but. They decide on what they want to do with that. I do think
that's why you bundle it then, right? Like everybody loves a good
make
deal,
a collection.
right?
Yeah, if they make a collection, it's a lot easier bullet to bite.
Yeah.
And honestly, they could be like, I'm not sure if anybody wants F-Zero. If they port one and it sells like mad, they're gonna be like, I guess we can make an F-Zero and
or
make a new
make a
F-Zero.
limited edition and
You know?
just kill this just kill the production when it's done.
It doesn't, and well, I think that's really amusing too with Mario 3D All Stars.
Oh, I did hear
It's still on the shelves.
I know, but I think they hit the target sales that they were going for because, basically, anonymous source said basically the reason why they did that was so they could hit their target sales. Other than that, they didn't really care about like pumping out a bunch of cartridges.
I heard they hit their sales mark like after the third month.
Oh, okay.
And like I think it was just that hype of being able to get it and stuff because it went on throughout the holidays.
Yeah.
I think it hit it right before the holidays hit, and I think it was just this last moment. And when the last month and people are starting to panic and stuff, and sites like Nintendo Life had to remind you every 3 days that it's gonna go away, and get everybody all fired up. Is what really sparked everyone buying it because people thought that they could turn around and sell it. Here's the reality of that thing, okay? So, as of the end of April, it has sold about 10 million worldwide, right? 10 million All-Stars. That doesn't include much of the digital media that's out there.
Yeah.
That's mostly physical. I think there was a couple countries that added the digital together. However, there is still thousands upon hundreds of thousands of copies floating out there on store shelves that haven't yet to be sold through now.
Better get it now because
Okay.
they're going on sale for
Well, here-
$50,000.
Well, no, well that's the thing that I think is hilarious.
Oh, no, another thing too. The Game and Watch. Go out and get your Game and Watch now.
Yeah.
They forgot. People forgot about it. So.
Oh yeah, no, and I'm pretty sure the moment they're gonna turn around, like, why is this thing $400 now? And like they were like, man, I should have bought one, but nobody seemed to wanted it at the time. Well, duh, that's the reason why it's so popular now.
That thing is so cool. They should do more. They should do it more.
I actually got two myself. Actually,
Yeah?
I got one to keep in the box and the other one to play with.
Okay.
Like, it's one of those type of things. I like and I got the original one from the My Nintendo Rewards way back in the day too.
Damn, I want it.
Yeah, I got that one. I found it the other day. But
Oh, speaking of My Nintendo, we got to talk about Nintendo Rewards snubbing America. 'Cause
oh
we
my
always
God.
get snubbed.
We'll touch that one way later.
What the hell,
But
Nintendo?
we're gonna build we gotta build a script out of that. We might even have to build a comedy routine for that one. That one's laughable. But going back, that's 10 million sales plus, right? 10 million plus. Estimated sales of the original Mario All Stars for the Super Nintendo was 8 million worldwide.
Oh, wow.
Okay, that's 2 more million, right? Worldwide, and the most that thing can still come up with is $60.
Okay.
So with inflation prices and stuff, we will probably see it for $80. It'll be as much as a new game would be cost at the time.
Yeah.
Like for all the people who bought 2, 3, 4 of them, they're gonna be eating that price.
Yeah.
Like there's just too many out there. Like whoever thinks that they're gonna, unless it is finite limited, and they literally say it's a limited supply. Period. They're not gonna sell off of very well. Like
See, and then GameCube collectors could rejoice because those 3 games are going to get really cheap. So if you're looking for a 64 copy of Mario 64,
Mario Sunshine on
Sunshine
GameCube or
and
Galaxy
All-Stars.
on the Wii. Well,
Yeah.
Galaxy on the Wii wasn't really that
yeah,
pricey either. Though.
Yeah, I found
but
that
that one sold that one sold a lot.
yeah,
64 is very similar to that. Mario Sunshine, I think, was the only one that was at a higher price out of them all.
Oh,
But
okay.
it wasn't even that much. It was like $75.
okay,
Like it wasn't huge
yeah.
because it was still a major seller. But for GameCube,
But holy crap, though, do they stay? The evergreen games is what you basically call them.
yeah,
Yeah, they'll stay that price for like ever until.
yeah.
So when you see a dip, you're like, oh, I got to get it now.
Yep.
You're like freaking. I remember Smash Brothers on the Wii was what $50.
Mm-hmm.
It was the last year of the Wii, and I finally saw a $20 price drop. I'm like, Jesus Christ, this thing was $50 forever.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of nice to see a drop in the secondhand.
Well, that
market.
goes. And I would touch on that again in another topic, but that's definitely another reason why I think we're not seeing many million seller budget titles anymore is likely because it's so costly to develop for systems nowadays. Even for as cheap as the Switch is, and it's the weakest console out of them all, and it's still going to be pricey to develop for, especially if you're trying to push a AAA game. You're not unless you can guarantee a sale. Like most companies aren't going to try to push it. Like period, unless they're guaranteeing huge sales. You know, that's why they don't have B teams making small experimental games much anymore. That's the reason why they port games so often. Like even, and this is one of the things that I feel like is a downside to ports, is that many of these developers will make a director's cut, complete edition nonsense to a game that's still readily available on the shelves. Like Last of Us 2 is getting a PS5 port, while you can still buy the other one at $50 on the PS4 right now.
Yeah, I don't really trust that too. Did you hear it? They might retcon it. Everybody's like really
Oh
scared.
my god, that's hilarious.
Everybody's really scared right now because if they're gonna, because I can't remember her name, but she was the original writer and the director too. So she left, but now that Neil Druckmann is the head of it, he might just retcon the first Last of Us for The Last of Us 2, so that it's a little more coherent. I'm like, oh my god.
So we could say that we're promised a PS5 port of the PS4 port of a PS3 game.
Yeah, that's when you know it's bullshit.
Like that when you're seeing it bounce each time like that, like there's a difference between having a million unit seller just constantly reported over and over and over again to each passing console. And then there's ones where you had a failure of a console and you're just trying to push everything onto the Switch, or well, obviously I gave it away, onto a new system to try to make up and try to sell that game again.
Yeah.
All the Wii U games that ported over, there's a reason for that. Nobody bought a Wii U.
Yeah.
So when people are like, "Oh, they're overcharging me for Mario 8 Deluxe," they're not trying to sell it back to you. They're trying to sell it to the other 13 million people who bought the system.
Yeah.
That's going to be brand new to them. That's the reason why it's #1 selling still to this day.
Also, having on a new console is really, really nice because you don't have to dig for the old shit. Like, any one of you guys out there who do have more than one console, it's such a pain when you have to go and dig for, like, oh, I feel like playing Super Mario World. You got to dig for that, and then make sure that you have enough space on your stand and. But yeah, it's nice just having it all on one new system. So yeah, I got everything on the Switch. The PC is really nice because you turn it on, just look at your list. Because I already got most of my Steam games are most of my Steam list is PS3 and Xbox 360 games. So it's just nice to have it all in one little fancy library.
No, and some people will say that you're over exaggerating the whole you gotta make space and all these little idiosyncrasies is probably why I don't play my other systems as much anymore.
What do you mean?
Even though it could be it's just a couple minutes, it's just a couple seconds, it's just that kind of adds up over time. Whereas like when I do have my Switch around, like I have it, even if I turn it on, I don't have to turn it on and kind of like sit idle on a couch because I can't really go anywhere.
Yeah.
You know, like even if I do have to wait on my Switch, I can
improve
literally just walk
improve
around.
load times. That's nice. Improve load times too. Oh yeah. I remember when they did PS2 to PS3 ports. Yeah, load times were like cut in half almost. It was so nice.
But then developers for PS3 games started maxing out, and then the load times extended again.
Yeah.
People are saying that about the PS5 right now. Like, oh, the PS5's load times are so good. Wait till they start utilizing all the power the PS5 has.
Yeah.
Then you're going to start seeing that same problem re-arise, but you won't know it because it would progressively grow over time.
Yeah.
Because you won't notice. You'll just be more excited, and you just have already accepted how fast it loads.
Mm-hmm.
and then you realize you're having load times of brand new games 3 years in, the same as 3 years in on the PS4 with brand new games to the PS4 at that time.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think of
You're
like,
going to see it. You're going to see it.
Yeah.
It's going to be very similar.
because I remember, what is it? PS3 was like what 500 megabyte of RAM, and then PS4 finally got like 8 gigs.
Something to that point.
Yeah, so it's like that's a huge difference from
Yeah, and
last
it
generation.
is. But then somebody finds ways to maximize and utilize that full potential, which then increases the load time.
Yeah.
Like it just happens.
Yeah.
Like when you're porting everything, like I'm expecting a lot of PS4 game to be ported over the PS5 for the next 2.5 years. You're not going to see that many new games. As much as people keep highlighting some new games, I feel like some of those are going to be very artsy fartsy that nobody really wants to buy. And then there's going to be just a boatload. Expect Horizon Zero Dawn 1 to get ported in there within the next year.
Yeah.
Expect Spider-Man to get ported over within the next year. Expect like what was the EA game that recently came out that wasn't Battlefield. It'll come to me eventually.
Okay.
I'm not going to try to dig on that. I'm not going to have us sit here and idle. But that's one of the problems that I have is that some people are going to be lazy. And other ones will be even lazier than that. They're going to be like, we're going to release a collection, but we're going to put like half of it on a code and you download it.
Oh my god.
Even though when you buy it physical, like if you buy it digitally, understand that if you have it on a console, it's limited to the how much access you have to that console. Whereas a PC, for the most part, it dominates that area because no matter how old or new your PC is, you can still re-download those games if those companies still keep them available on that platform. Like that's it. The only problem is if somebody comes in and removes that game, basically. If Capcom comes in and removes a Mega Man game.
Or Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
Well, that's licensing. They're legally bound to do that.
I know.
I'm saying in general, like games like Mega Man, stuff that Capcom owns, it'll be there until Capcom decides that enough is enough and then take it off.
Yeah.
Whereas they don't have to worry about that on the Switch or the PlayStation 4 or the Xbox 360 or One or whatever, because it's there until the company who runs that console decides today's the day I shut this this console off. No more support for the Switch. We're working on Switch 3 now. Nobody needs to do this. Leave it be. They don't have to do anything. They could just, as soon as that shuts down, they're going to be like, Mega Man Collection again for the Switch 3.
Yeah.
And they will sell it again. That's
Yeah.
just how, that's the inherent problem with digital media on such temporary systems. Even though I love my Switch, I love the games that Nintendo makes and stuff, that is inherently a problem why I collect more physical games, because even after the case, I can still play most of them, except for the ports that are very lazy with code in their boxes or requiring download patches such as Spyro, which I heard basically they said the first game's complete on the box. You want to know what isn't on the cart that's not complete?
The whole game.
The selection screen.
What?
Yeah.
Oh
You
my God.
cannot play the first game, even if you didn't have any internet whatsoever, cannot play the first game without downloading a patch in order to get the content in order to play said game on the cart.
Oh yeah, and then you said if a Switch Pro comes out and you want to, if you want to put it in, you got to download.
You have to download it again. And
man.
like even if there was another game that did that just recently too. Like Doom, the original, the 2016 Doom. It was first year. They even said you could play this whole game, theoretically play the single player game without ever downloading the multiplayer patch. The multiplayer patch is mandatory.
Yeah.
So you have to download it or it will not work.
Really?
Period. Yep.
Damn.
The 2016 Doom port that they have, they even said it, and they're like, oh no, you can play it theoretically, but that patch is mandatory.
It just reminds about Fortnite. Maybe Fortnite could fix it because they came out with the new patch that fixed the draw distance on top of making everything. I think 500 megabytes less. So maybe they could
Well,
work the magic.
maybe, but I think the ship has sailed for that, at least that game.
Yeah.
They might be able to do some kind of magic with Doom Eternal with Panic Button and stuff, but that's for the 2016 one. You can't do anything with it.
Yeah.
The physical cart has already been done, printed, and they're not printing anymore unless Microsoft says okay, because Microsoft now owns Bethesda. But beyond that, like it limits you from being able to play those games again. Again, it's another one of those things that it might as well have been digital,
Yeah.
right? And I feel like making these ports and like people becoming more and more okay with these ports, are like, well, maybe you should just buy it digital. No, I want to be able to play my systems for as long as I want to play my systems.
I kind of like it digital.
You know, well, you understand that like most of your stuff, as convenient as it is still very finite. You
Yeah.
don't own technical digital games.
I know.
You only, and people keep saying you don't technically own the game either. Technically, you own the right.
Yeah.
Just like a book, if you have Harry Potter, you don't own Harry Potter. You don't own the story.
You own the paper.
You
Yeah.
own the paper where the words are printed on, which gives you is basically your right to read that book, as long as you had the book.
Yeah.
Period. That's just basically what a video game's like. But when you have stuff that requires mandatory downloads or digital, you are basically putting stuff that's into another person's house.
Yeah.
You can access it whenever you want until that person moves. Then you might not even have access to it at all.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
So,
as long as you have the convenience, you always got to weigh those options. Like what's better for you. But as long as people keep developing and porting their games over, honestly, if they're doing digital ones and they're porting them over, they should be cheaper. They shouldn't be charging $60 again, digital only games. But I do think like as long as they keep porting stuff over, you'll still have access to those games as long as those developers see fit. Because Monster Hunter Rise just recently released, right?
Yeah.
If you had a digital version of it, you can play it as long as you want. And you can play it on the Switch too, only if Capcom ports it to it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if they don't, then you're out Monster Hunter Rise.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
And I
don't
think
know.
I think that's the problem with that, right?
Yeah.
But that's where I see like a lot of laziness with ports and stuff like that. They're trying to manipulate like, oh, you can download this and this and this, and the stupid codes in the box is garbage. And then just if you are re-releasing games that I can still readily buy new for new prices onto a new system,
Mm-hmm.
that's not a good port either.
Yeah.
Like I could still buy this game for this much. Why should I even bother?
Yeah.
But yeah, no. There's downsides to these ports. But
Yeah.
honestly, like
Well, the thing is, like, it's most frustrating when you're like, I just bought it and now it's on the new system, and I just have the new system. Yeah.
yeah, and
Well, at least you're not Final Fantasy 7.
what the
we get-
remake?
Yeah. Well, if you want to get, because they're not going to make Part 2 for the PS4, so
No.
you got to buy a PS5
Mm-hmm.
to get Part 2.
They're gonna be porting
Oh my god.
part 1 over to it. And
Yeah,
that's
it's
just how it is.
$600 game. Woohoo.
They're gonna. I could almost guarantee you they're gonna be rewriting some of the story where they feel like, oh well, it's gonna be creative freedom. Some of these, I want to know how many times you can excuse creative freedom until you realize you've changed the whole story.
Yeah.
Like how much are you going? Like how much of these Final Fantasy fans are gonna constantly excuse everything's okay?
Well, they're already foreshadowing it, so it's like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, they're gonna. It's not gonna be the same Final Fantasy you loved, because I called it out years ago when
Yeah.
when it was still just a theory, and one of my friends, huge Final Fantasy fan, huge, was constantly squatting on me about it. Like I'm like, dude, it's the team's not there anymore. It's gonna be different, and you're not gonna like it.
Yeah.
Like, and it was still just a theory. It wasn't even confirmed. It was nothing. And when it got confirmed, I still remember him trying to gloat around, walking the walk, like everything else. Like, what are you gonna do about it now? I'm like, watch what's gonna happen. I didn't say it was never gonna happen. I said if it was going to happen, don't expect it to be the same you think it's going to be. And lo and behold, he has not said anything since that game released. Nothing about it, like not at all. But honestly, like, I don't know. I'm more of a person who likes some of the older games. If a game kind of skips a generation and then you port it over, I'm kind of more lenient on it. Like, because it gets to that point where access for new kids, new gamers, new this will become increasingly more finite as time goes on for those games. For like, if the Switch 2 comes out, the Wii U is going to be harder for people to want to get involved in.
Yeah.
And it's going to get harder. So with the Switch around with all the ports and stuff, that's great, right? But for Wii games, like they should, for instance, right now with Switch, there's a bunch of Wii games we could still get without waggle and stuff. They could still. Like,
I missed that. I missed motion controls.
Well, they could still have some of that. Like they still have that.
Yeah.
For instance, Capcom can port over Zack and Wiki. Have you ever played that game?
Play a little bit. It's pretty innovative game though. I like it.
It was. I like when games appeal to a new gimmick. I like when some games just go full bore.
Yeah.
Like you really utilize it. And Zack and Wiki did that, right? And Zack and Wiki can still theoretically work on the Switch with that mechanic. I do not see it being able to be used otherwise. I think that's why Capcom's going to try to avoid it because
the issue is also if you want to go to handheld mode, they want to utilize motion control on top of a handheld because people like their handheld more. But I kind of miss the motion control.
Well, there's ways you can do some of those things with a touch control.
Yeah.
Like for whatever control you had with the Wii was more of the pointing and stuff. So it was like a point and click for the most part.
Yeah.
Like it really was. So it in handheld mode still will work. It's the problem with people who adamantly and vehemently detest motion control that they'd rather just press buttons to make it work.
Yeah.
So a game like Zack and Wiki won't ever work that way.
No,
It will never work that way.
Yeah.
Because it did something so unique that it's a game that's so good that people like that should make an exception for this game.
Yeah.
Like it is one of those games. But other ports of Wii games to the Switch, I'm about.
Yeah.
What about a port of Metroid Prime 3?
Yes.
You know, like why not? Well, they had the whole trilogy on the Wii, so you might as well just go ahead and do that whole trilogy, which is the thing that's rumored.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we're already getting HD Skyward Sword.
Yeah.
What other good Wii games that you wanted to see or anything like that? For instance,
Dang. Like Resident Evil 4.
Resident Evil 4?
Well, I guess we already got it.
We already got that.
But the motion controls. So no, we didn't get a port because we didn't get the motion controls.
I want the good port.
Well, it ain't like okay. My biggest gripe about the Switch port that they gave us is motion controls were like far more superior because you could aim at a turn and a dime. You can't tilt up the sensitivity for the analog controls. So it's like
and they didn't even patch any of that in.
No,
Oh.
they just dragged and dropped it. Like you lazy Capcom.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like Wii games, I don't know how many Wii games I've had, but theoretically, anybody who wants to port, that'd be good ones. The Sonic, Sonic and the Black Knight and Sonic and the Secret Rings, they may not be the best games out there, or even Sonic Colors, because that also came on the original Wii, but they can easily port those.
Yeah, with the rumor coming out though.
There's a rumor of Colors coming out, but there hasn't been anything concrete, if that makes sense. But they already did Banana Blitz, which is a port of the Wii version of Super Monkey Ball.
Yeah.
And honestly, that helps them go, okay, like Super Monkey Ball really failed the last 5 years. Let's go ahead and port this game, see how it works. It sold very well.
Yeah.
Now there's rumors that there's going to be a new one or like a remade version, something to that point. And go from there. You know, but I do believe a lot of the ports, like being able to test stuff, I think that's a really good thing.
Okay.
Like, if you're gonna do older stuff though, I don't want somebody to make like just a classic Nintendo game individually. Like if you're gonna do old stuff that's pixelated and stuff, make collections.
Yeah.
Like that'll be something I want to see.
Well, I guess
if
it's
you're gonna
also
port stuff.
how big the file is too. If you're selling me like a 500 megabyte game for $60, I'm like, you could give me like
Ikaruga.
4 or 5. Is it really 500 megs?
No, it's very close. It's like
Oh, okay.
under a gig.
$60, pay up.
Yep, that's basically what's happening right now, and I did.
But no, Game Boy Advance, port everything. Oh my god. Yeah, I would love it. It just, I don't know. How we maybe we'll get like a special little adapter for the Switch, or maybe because it needs a light sensor for Boktai.
Right.
So, it'd be so sweet. Maybe you could hook it up to Bluetooth, take it outside so you could play indoors.
I don't know. They might. It would probably sound a lot more easier if they did something similar to like an NES Mini or something like that.
GBA Mini.
Yeah, something like
Port-
that.
I would go to jail to get one. If they ever made a
Nintendo
GBA
only
Mini.
sells a GBA Mini in jail.
Oh, it'd be so sweet though. It was like,
Okay, guess I'm gonna kill a guy.
just a collection of like, I don't know, maybe we could release like the Mario Game Boy Advance, and there's like certain collections on it, and then the Zelda Game Boy Advance, and there's certain collections on it.
I don't know. I think the micromanagement of doing that would just be dumb.
No, okay.
Like I think adding a huge collection of the creamiest of the crop onto a GBA Mini might be your best bet, because when you look at the NES and the Super Nintendo Mini, they don't have all the best games out there. But they do have just about all the games they did pick are huge. They're really big games, right?
Yeah.
They're by no means what Sony did with their PlayStation Mini, which had the weirdest selection out there. Like, they're like, oh, did you like Tomba? Nobody did. Well, we're adding both of them. Like, no, that's not how that works. And then they have games that required the DualShock controller, but they only had the normal controller.
Oh man.
It was pretty cringe.
Painful.
It was pain. But
Well, there again, Japan snubbing America, because I think Europe got the better stuff too. So
on the PlayStation one,
yeah, because I think Japan got like everything that was like premium and nice. Europe had a couple more games, but at the very least, it ran at like 30 frames, and then we just had like super choppy frames, some games, and then some games were hidden when people jailbroke it. Yeah, it was a disaster here.
wow. No, as far as collections though, like, I mean, I'm just talking about games in general, not just like an all inclusive like weird mini console thing. I'm just talking about game collections and stuff. And I know I'll probably be very few, because I did grow up in the whole gross out 90s stuff, and I did play a lot of the gross out 90 games. I would honestly like to see like a collection of Earthworm Jim, like Earthworm Jim 1, 2, and 3D, as much as I hate 3D, as much as Earthworm Jim hates 3D. I think it would be really good.
Yeah,
Like,
I've never touched the.
I would
Never had a chance to
rather
play it, so.
have a shitty game get ported out and available to show how crappy that game was, and just be ported out there and be like, yeah, we're not doing that again.
Yeah.
And like as an angle and stuff for like Earthworm Jim 4, because that's in development. Well, I don't know how far into development. Like, we've only seen the teaser trailer.
Yeah.
But we'll see how that works out. But a port of the 3, or even Boogerman. Boogerman 1 and 2, as gross out as those games are, and I feel like that's one of those games that will just stay in the 90s.
Oh, speaking of games that we never well, I've never played Earthworm Jim, so yeah, it'd be interesting for me to be able to play it. But it would be cool to get like really obscure consoles that never made it to the 3DO.
I don't think I like games ported from off the 3DO. Yeah, I'd be down for 'em.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't see a modernized version of an old console. Like, I don't.
Oh no, like yeah, just put on Steam, put it on the Switch. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing I would do too. But one of the things that really stuck out while I was writing this whole script down was one of my favorite fighting games that came out at that time. There's way too many like games that are like very anime bullshit and stuff nowadays. Like almost everything's anime, and people are like, if it's not anime, I don't want to play it. I liked Clay Fighter.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god, I liked Clay
Heard about
Fighter.
that.
I would if they put Clay Fighter 1, 2, and 63 in the fourth onto one little cart or something in one nice little package, I would buy the shit out of that. That game was really good.
Yeah.
At least for its time, I thought. And honestly, like whoever owns Clay Fighter now, it'd be a good idea for them to go, I wonder if somebody would be able to be interested in Clay Fighter. Get that thing all wrapped up, release it out there, and see how people react.
Yeah.
Like,
See, and then you don't have to dig for your 64, and you don't have to use the weird
64 or the Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
Like that's two systems right there. And then of course, 63 in the fourth, depending on the game you bought, had either Booger Man in the game and Earthworm Jim, which is a weird segue now because I didn't piece that together until just now. But those games are really hard to get a hold of now. They're really hard to find, and they're not as expensive as other ones. But I can guarantee you, once more people start looking into it and stuff, it's going to increase because more people will start wanting to buy it. Then that means more people are going to start increasing their prices on it because so many people are trying to rival them against one another.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. As far as the only other things like I could think of, and it's more on a business standpoint, is like ports of late 3DS games that just tanked.
Yeah.
Like it was just hard to compete with the Switch. It just tanked. I think Monster Hunter Stories could use it.
It's coming. It's coming.
Oh, it's Capcom. I half expect the first one to get ported already. Like honestly.
Well, don't we already have the? Because on iOS they already have it in high res basically. So and then they have the Ace Attorney on iOS as well too. So
yeah they already have the Ace Attorney trilogy on the Switch.
Yeah. So it's coming.
Yeah, I could see that. I could honestly see that. I'm just saying, it could use it.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether or not it's coming now, it could still use it. Like
Snake
failed.
Eater. Snake Eater.
Snake Eater, maybe. Yeah, Snake Eater could use that too. I would say like some of the new IPs that Nintendo tried at the time too, that didn't take very well because it wasn't on the Switch. The Switch was the new thing. Why isn't it on the new thing? Because development probably happened before the Switch became a realistic thing. So, again, codename Steam.
You're not going to let it down, are you?
No, I'm not.
Well,
it
is.
Like I said, if I pitch this idea to anybody without any context, people are like, man, that game sounds dope as hell. I was like, I would want to try to play the presidential mech punching aliens. Hell yeah! Congratulations, we have a game for you. You didn't buy it. And an RPG called Ever Oasis.
Yeah.
Ever Oasis, I feel like was really, really let down at the time.
Didn't it came out during Fire Emblem too? Fire Emblem's like just freaking took everything by storm too. So.
No, it actually came out in that first year of Switch.
Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it came in like it was at the late end of it came out roughly right before Mario Odyssey. Like it got stomped. It got stomped because it was not on the new system. It was not on the one that was all the rage. Every other game was getting released on it, so people were upset. How come this game isn't on it? That could have been one more game on the Switch that everybody's complaining about. Which I think we need to talk about one of these days too. Like why the perception of the Switch is always like Nintendo's release list is so garbage, even though they average higher games releases than at most other companies.
Yeah.
But Yeah, no, Ever Oasis was also another really good game. It was very charming. I'm actually surprised it didn't do well at all. Like in general, it was actually. Whereas one where I'm upset that it didn't do well, it was a game that like a lot of people when they look at it, they're like, why couldn't it just be in Fire Emblem, blah blah, and carry on. Ever Oasis was a lot of what people wanted at the time, and nobody bought it.
Well,
Like
nobody
it
wants
was
to
one
try
of the
new
games.
things, though.
I'm surprised that it wasn't even received to a point where it was reasonable notable.
Yeah.
I mean, people still say that ARMS sold like garbage, even though that hit 2 million units.
I mean, I guess it's also the IP. Just change Ever Oasis to like Final Fantasy Ever Oasis, and or
Xenoblade.
Super Mario Ever Oasis. Yeah.
Xenoblade Ever Oasis.
People don't like to try new things, man.
They don't. It shows because they look at ARMS and they're like, oh, 2 million, horrible. Dude, that game did phenomenal. Think about it. It's a game that was wedged between a legacy game, two very well established franchises by this point. And one of them is a legacy game since the Super Nintendo. And the other one is the new hot item.
Yeah.
Like Mario Kart and Splatoon. Like you couldn't get any worse unless Pokemon was in there somewhere too. Like, and it still managed to irk out 2 million. People said, well, there wasn't that much on there. There was Mario and Splatoon that was on the Switch that was dominating sales beyond that. And are you going to use the same excuse for that? No. You'd be like, well, it's because it's popular. Well, ARMS was popular. It just wasn't as popular.
Yeah.
2 million. That's a success, guys. Like, it was huge. I'm just surprised that Ever Oasis never sold that much either. And honestly, I feel like if it was ported over to the Switch, it would probably do more, even now, than it ever did on the Switch and on the 3DS.
Yeah.
And I feel like those two games, because of the timing for them, like Codename Steam, I think a lot of it has to do with the lack of communication to, like, the fact that it was not something people wanted.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't something like, oh, it was hype. It was never hyped. Because it was never established. It was just brand new IP. Here it is. And see how it works. Like, Nintendo's never really been good at that.
No, okay.
Like, they hyped up Splatoon, but maybe the reason for it is because the top 5 lines at E3 at the time was Smash Brothers, something else, and Splatoon. And then 2 other things.
No, okay.
I'm pretty sure even Nintendo got the message that they should probably pitch Splatoon out the ass.
Yeah.
And they did, and it worked out. The thing is, Nintendo's smart enough not to just throw money at an advertisement campaign for a game they might not even take off. So I can understand where Nintendo is for Codename Steam, but I still think that game was sorely, sorely underrated. And I think it would definitely benefit from getting ported to the Switch.
Yeah.
Like it definitely would. And honestly, like that's just where I stand on ports. Like honestly, I feel like we're with them regardless of you hate them or not. People keep saying, "Oh, we should make more new games." Nobody's willing to make experimental games anymore.
There are good games out now.
And that's another thing. That's very good point. Like ports of some of these games are games that are good that we know are good.
Yeah.
You know, or even
Extend the
part of
life.
some of the collections.
Yeah.
You know, some people hate Mario 64 but love Sunshine and hate Galaxy, and they'll still buy All Stars for it.
Yeah.
I would. If they released F-Zero and the only one I cared about was GX, I would still buy it. You know, I would definitely do that.
I would say port everything to mobile and PC. I already have my phone on me, so yeah, more ports, the better.
I don't know. I don't think the control scheme on mobile just pisses me off.
I'll suffer. I don't
It's the
care.
reason why I
We're
actually
already
bought...
suffering.
Nope.
We'll all do it.
Nope. I don't want to do it. Like, we talked about the Kemco RPGs before when we were talking about stuff that I like on one of our previous ones. Those were originally on an iOS like arcade thing,
No, okay.
and I would not touch them now.
Nah.
Like, I would rather get them on the Switch or anywhere else I could put a controller to than ever do the touch thing. Like, there's so few games on my mobile system that it's actually laughable. Like I've deleted games off my system that comes in based with the phone. I'm like, why? I don't want these. I don't like. I got 2 puzzle games. I got Dragalia Lost, and I got Brawl Stars and Pokemon Go. Like everybody has Pokemon Go, but that's all I play. And Brawl Stars, because of how small the things you use on the side of the screens, that's it. Like I could probably play Raid's Shadow Legends, but
Autoplay. I also hate autoplay because we'll get into that.
well,
We'll probably get into
that
mobile
we're
games
not
too,
sponsored yet, so I'm not
Yeah.
playing it yet.
But
You'll get my opinion until you start paying me. But no, like that's the thing. Yeah. But I don't know. Mobile as in like being able to get it on like Switch or something like that. That I'd be fine with that.
yeah,
But
physical controls are nice. Like that's always a plus for
just
sure.
physical controls are just good. But yeah, get it when you modernize some of the old games. That's where I stand. Like I'm okay. We're kind of stuck with ports now to the end of time. That's
Yeah.
just how it's going to be now, and it sucks. At the same time, it's reasonable, and I'll take that. I'll take that right now. As much as I don't like it, I'll still take it,
Yeah.
and that's just where I stand. And it does look we might be able to start wrapping this up here this week. So I'd like to thank you all guys for listening, and don't forget to hit like on it and subscribe if you want to hear more, and obviously hit the bell icon if you wish. And we hope to hear you guys.
And we'll see you on the other side.
All right, have a good one.